Welcome to Cut Daisies and Unicorns, and we're here. The sun is shining in Chicago today.
You almost should be happy with this weather.
Yeah.
I mean, you could almost
57 currently.
Smell spring in the air.
With sun that's shining. Now, it didn't start off earlier this morning with the sun shining, but it came out later.
I saw that the concrete was a little wet. Did we get some rain?
We did.
I didn't hear said rain falling.
Well, I think there was a lot of rain last night. I'm not sure when it stopped.
Well.
I know it was raining last night because when I let the dogs run around in the parking lot.
Who let the dogs out? Woof, 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 woof.
Yeah. City dogs. That's the place where they roam. Parking lots.
Yeah. It's like they don't even know. Do they still smell and turn circles until they poop?
They do.
Oh, wow.
Even on the concrete.
Yeah.
On the blacktop.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Well, we got at least a minute and 27 seconds in before we talked about poop.
Yep. Poop only could have gone. We could have only held back so much, And, and now
you never want to hold.
Now the poop hits.
Yeah. Don't ever want to do that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it is beautiful in sunny Chicagoland. We're welcoming you to the podcast on Sunday.
Yes.
A delightful Sunday.
A delightful Sunday.
The beginning of the last week of April.
Right.
We're making it.
It's crazy.
We're tipping the tide, too.
Yeah.
Say that 3 times.
Today, Sunday.
Yes.
Is Caitlin's birthday.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the date?
The 24th.
See?
Yeah.
I just wanted to get that out there.
Right.
And Caitlin will be 22.
She'll be 22. Yeah.
Her golden birthday is 2 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
24.
Right.
Ding, 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 ding. She survived a whole year of being legally, able to drink.
Legally able. Yep. So.
Well, good.
So that's happening.
She seems in good spirits these days.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Hi, Caitlin.
Right.
Happy birthday.
No,
So will you do a special thing?
Well, we don't get back until nighttime, so we told her we would be celebrating her birthday on Monday.
Is that her day off?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think Heather's taking her for spa day, like massages or something. I'm like, cool, go at it.
You didn't want to join in that fun?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to massages. I'm like, it's fine. You know, but yeah, I'd rather probably recuperate from the trip. So
okay, all right, well, good. I don't know. There's some people who really like these mani pedis.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't like strange people touching me.
That's really what it comes down to for me too.
I'm like, really? And hey, you know what? There is one self-care treatment that I think I would be interested in.
And what is that?
The Epsom salt float.
Yeah.
It's a dark chamber, and you're suspended.
Uh-huh.
And in that weightless feel, apparently it's very therapeutic.
Huh.
Yeah. So my buddy, actually one of our guests in the past, the wonderful Positive Vibe, Chris Fordyce.
Oh.
That's a big deal for him. He really, really enjoys that.
And then how often does that usually occur? Is that something that people do weekly or?
I don't know. Another thing that's out there that I think might be worth looking into is light treatment.
Hmm.
And
that would be mainly for vitamin D?
I don't know.
Light issues?
I mean, I walk into this podcast woefully ill-prepared.
Oh.
I have no idea.
Well, you also didn't know we were going to be talking about, spa days and
right. Yeah.
massages and other self-care maintenance.
There was one other thing. One of the losses in my move to Chicago was a wild, weird, wacky chiropractor who Randy's probably in his mid-60s by now. Met him on a mission trip down to Honduras. And at the time, I had probably been playing guitar for 4 years, maybe 4 years, in for work at church and stuff. But I'd gotten to a place where my back, like, it was hard for me to stand.
Yeah.
And then they had me in Honduras rinsing out kids' hair for lice treatment. And, like, it just, the middle of my back, lower back, like, it just get numb, and just from standing and stuff like that. And so, I went over, I was in such pain, I went over and I'm like, Randy, and he had offered, hey, if anybody needs an adjustment or, whatever. And I grew up with chiropractors where, like, they had to take x-rays and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And, Randy combines the physical of your body with he studied the acupuncture points. So Chinese acupuncture, studied those points, and then put pressure, and instead of it being acupuncture, then he uses, like, his elbow or hands to put pressure in these different spots. And I literally, because I have a knee injury from football in high school, hadn't been able to, like, kneel on the ground on both knees for decades. And literally after that treatment in Honduras, I got out of the shower that day and noticed my limberness and flexibility had increased so much. I was able to get down on the floor on both knees and then get back up without, like, having handrail assistance or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I was blown away.
Wow.
So then, flash forward a few years later, and my knee was starting to get tricky on me, like, where, I was using a cane to be able to get up and down off the platform, like, and it would lock, and it would, like, I was gimping and just in horrible shape.
Yeah.
And I was about ready to go to the doctor to see if I needed to have knee surgery on that bad knee. And after 3 months of treatment with Randy, good to go.
Wow.
But now here's the deal. Now I'm in Chicago. And I know my flexibility is really, really bad right now. And so I've been telling myself that I need to research for a chiropractor for the last month.
Right.
Which is my tendency. Apparently the dentist
Who can do that voodoo magic?
Well, see, now there's the thing, is how to find, I come from a long line. My mom has chiropractic since the mid-'80s. And when I was painting in college and through probably the first 2-3 years of my adult life, commercially painting apartments and exteriors and interiors and ceilings and all that stuff. Like, I used to be able to carry 3 5-gallon buckets of paint. Well, it takes a toll on the body.
Right.
And so once I stopped that work, then my body was, like, rejecting me concerning the new work that I was doing, which was behind the desk. Now, for the record, I'd like to say I really like working behind a desk. Oh, man. I really do. So anyway, but there is a Flexology business that popped up in Skokie that apparently I'm having this conversation about my flexibility enough that the phone wants to advertise to me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how are you doing self-care? Are you going to go do a spa day? Are you going to float
Right.
in suspended water?
Suspended water.
Suspend your body in water in a dark chamber. And, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's interesting. I don't know.
Oh, I mean, it'll do all of us good. I was out walking the other day, and I mean, I was like, that's one good thing. Walking is good for you.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately. No.
I know. I don't know. My pedometer, like yesterday, I'm not really sure what it was doing or why it was doing what it was doing, but
Yeah.
it was like I landed my day with 1,200 steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I think the battery's going. I mean, I had it in my pocket all day, and I know I had more than 1,200 steps in my day.
Yeah.
But this pedometer has you have to go 9 steps before it calculates and like picks up and goes.
Oh.
I think it really works well for like going out on walks and stuff.
Sure.
But anyway, yeah, we went for a walk on Sunday and got in, I don't know, 2 or 3 miles. And I thought to myself, you know what? I didn't have to sit down on the couch to recover from the walk.
That's a good sign.
That is a good sign, right?
Right.
I mean, like, oh man, I remember 2 or 3 months ago, I'm like, I don't even know if I can walk out the door. Yeah. So, but anyway, so we had prepped that we were going to dive into the Fringe,
Right.
paranormal,
Yeah,
all
we
things
dropped
that
at the last
aren't normal.
Yeah.
Basically, does it include anything outside of your regular hamster wheel day?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, I would say that.
Okay.
I mean, Fringe would be, yeah. I mean, it's not your normal every day.
The non-truthful so far series called Fringe
Mm-hmm.
is dealing with multiverse travel in between, and the collision course of the 2 separate verses coming together.
Yeah.
Time travel. Started watching. This was kind of cool. Started watching Stargate
Oh.
Origins
Mm.
movie. Got halfway through it,
Yeah.
and it was like, I'm tired. I'm gonna go to sleep.
So one that you should put on.
Okay.
It just came out on Amazon. It's a series.
Oh, is this the one about the hole in the farm?
Yeah, Outer Banks, right? So, it has Josh Brolin in it, and it kind of brings back some of the vibes of like Yellowstone, and kind of this is our land, our territory. We're gonna kind of we're fighting to keep it, that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But then it also has a sci-fi vibe in it, where there's this hole, and Josh Brolin is initially like the only person who knows that. I mean, it's kind of on his property, and he sees it, and then he kind of sticks his hand in the hole like the first time, and he kind of, and it's somewhat time jumps. Like he sees what's going to happen shortly,
which would be great,
right?
If you're playing the lottery,
Right.
Okay.
So then he starts like playing around with it. He like takes like a shovel and throws it in the hole. He takes, like certain thing, like, hey, we'll just throw it in the hole. Like, where does it go? I don't really know. He doesn't really know. Nobody knows. I mean, so there's only 2 episodes that are out. They release it weekly.
What day?
I don't remember, Thursday, Friday, something like that.
Yeah.
But
that's one of the things that I'm maybe that's one thing I'm just angry about right now,
Right.
is that
you can't stream things.
Yeah, well, not just about streaming it, it's binge. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I meant binge streaming, yeah.
Yeah.
Because mostly everything is streaming now, so.
Right.
I don't watch network TV. So it's like, I mean, if like I want to watch things on my schedule.
Yeah.
And it's usually like, hey, if Heather and I are sitting down, then it's like it won't be planned.
Right.
So we had time, the other night, and that's when we watched the first episode of this show, and then last night we watched the second episode. So,
Yeah.
but I like the element of somewhat of this sci-fi element as well, and they bring in, I think it's it's either Greek or Roman mythology about Kronos. So Kronos is kind of the starter of all the rest of the gods, like Kronos, and
Okay.
so he kind of rips a hole in this space-time. And it's like kind of from there you get chronology, so you get this time frame.
Okay.
And so they kind of bring in Kronos a little bit, and kind of that idea of like, hey, there could be these anomalies that are found, throughout, but not necessarily. And so he kind of talks about this void, and he's saying there's a void between kind of like deity, God, whatever it might be, and man, person, human beings. And he's like, why do we have this void? Tell me about this void, trying to, and also then at the same time almost referencing the whole. Like, because this hole is a void.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. So I think you might enjoy it, actually. So
Well, it's funny you mentioned that.
yeah.
Because of the media that I have downloaded to my iPad for consumption during studio time.
Yeah.
It is one of the things that I put on there to be able to look into. I have several where now what I've decided to do is like when I'm like, that looks okay. I mean, maybe, I'll just put 2 to 3 episodes and figure it's 3 hours worth of watch time,
Right.
And stuff like that. I tell you, one of the series that I wanted to like really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not a gamer.
Right.
But Halo.
Oh, really?
And so Paramount Plus has started this. And I don't know if it was that I just wasn't in the right mindset during the day when I was like watching the first one. What I've noticed about like me watching media at the studio is it has to almost be more narrative so that I'm following the story. It's almost like listening to an audiobook.
Right.
Which can happen through dialogue. So like a lot of blow up, kind of action movie, that doesn't translate really well.
Sure.
That's why movies that have a great soundtrack end up like I can just have it on repeat. And like I think I've watched The Sapphires like 3 times this week, just because it's got that great, late 60s, early 70s soul music, and just done very well. Great, and based on a true story. So there's an interconnection there too. I love autobiographical work.
Yeah.
But that being said, as much as Halo didn't work, I was looking forward to on Disney Plus, and I'm not really sure whose account is on my TV. I like
It's a great thing.
There was one thing, like I think what happened was that Michaela came out to visit, and we were wanting to watch Cruella, which is very well done movie. The
new one with
yeah
Emma Stone.
I think Emma Stone, yeah. The costuming and everything, and it was almost like this pre-Cruella, kind of thing. Anyway, so super well done. But we bought it on Apple, and then it wouldn't play. So then Michaela gets one of her besties. She had that account. She plugged that in and got it all rolling and going. So it was there. I think currently it's Micah's, but I'm not sure. I don't know. All I know is that and for the record, not that I'm opposed to like putting someone else's account on my TV. I didn't do it. I mean, like I didn't reach out and say,
Whose is
and
this?
I mean, people will ask me, hey, do you have Hulu? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, do you want my account? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, because I've said you could have my Hulu again.
Yeah, sharing is caring, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and like that's the second offer this week that I've had,
Right.
and so there.
Yeah, it was the same with Yellowstone when you bought the series, and that's how we were introduced to it. You're like, you should watch this. I have it all on Amazon.
Well, and I don't feel bad about that because I purchased it,
Right.
and as we've said before, I'll purchase the next season. Like I'll purchase all the seasons so that I have it in my library so I can go
Right.
back and watch it and don't have to worry about it being based on streaming.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if you want to get into a gripe fest, so Xfinity, which is Comcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as a and since my phone's listening to me bitch about all this shit, so they have an app for the TV.
Mm-hmm.
And so, all right, cool. So I download the app a year and a half ago, and it says beta. I'm like, all right, fine. So they're working through, all of their, coding and all the stuff that goes on. I go to watch on, I don't know if it was Monday or what day it was, and it makes me like relog back in. I'm like, what in the world happened? It's not like we had a power outage or something like that. Well, they updated their beta. And so the interface to be able to do that. Now the problem is I can't figure out how to like stream the on-demand stuff. It shows up and then it says, here are the things. And then over here, it's like, here are the episodes. Free episodes. Well, I mean, I'm paying for the account, so on demand should be able to be on demand. Now, I've figured out a workaround,
Yeah.
and if I need to feel good about myself about anything, like I'll usually go to that skill set.
Yeah.
My ability to figure out a workaround is
It's on point.
it is on point. So if I record, which goes into this like. They didn't have to send me a DVR. Apparently, there's with this app,
There's already space there.
but yeah, it must be like so much space per household or whatever.
Yeah.
So I have TV shows that I put on a recording schedule, and as long as that's on a recording schedule, then on my iPad I can download it to watch it away from the house.
Okay.
Works out great until you don't do it for the first episode of Better Call Saul. And they upgrade their beta, so I can't even watch Better Call Saul's first episode
Of the final season.
of the final season on demand. So I put it on recording, but then I went to my iPad, which apparently hasn't updated anything of this new beta version of whatever. And I can go there and push on the on-demand, and it lets me play on-demand on my iPad. I mean, having to be hooked up to the internet,
Yeah.
which I don't have at the studio, which, I mean, these are all first world problems.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but it's why I have a growing DVD collection.
Right. Yeah, so speaking of like streaming and services, and
I know where you're going
do
with
you have
this.
Apple TV Plus or whatever it is?
Well, technically,
Yeah.
I think I do because I just got a new iPhone.
Oh, so then they give you at least 3 months.
I think 3 months or a year or something
Yeah,
like that or
something-
whatever.
something
but
like that.
do I actively subscribe to that? No.
Yeah. Well, there's one that I picked up last week. I think it was last week. It's called Severance. So it's what's his name? The guy from something about Mary. What's his name?
Hold on. Adam Scott?
Well, Adam Scott's in it, but the actor who kind of produces, and I don't know if he wrote it or just produces it, but
I can tell you everything you want to know about this.
yeah. So pull that up. For some reason his name is escaping me. So I was talking about the creator for it. Ben Stiller. That's what it is.
Oh, directed by Ben Stiller.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So Ben Stiller, who's an actor, but he doesn't show up in there. He just is on the back side of it. And like it's got an interesting kind of premise. So it's you really that idea where you get work life and home life, and your work life often gets invaded, with, thoughts about home and, things that were happening, whether it happened that morning, and so what they decided as a company was that they were going to do this severance chip. So they inject this little, kind of microchip in your brain.
Yeah.
And it severs your, so while you're at work, you don't know about anything on the outside.
Huh.
So like it completely severs yours. So they have these, what they call outies, right? So the outie is the person that's on the outside, and the innie is the one that's on the inside, So they're like, there's almost like two different people within the same body, and they don't know about each other. So like, the people on the outside are always asked questions. Oh, you're a severance person. Like, yeah, like, and so, what's work like? Like, I don't know what work's like. I work there. That's what I know. But I have no clue about what happens there.
Huh.
So there's this, so I think it's kind of fascinating. I mean, the way that it's even told. I mean, it's got some suspense and some thriller parts of it. But very kind of sci-fi-ish too, because it's, it reminds me of like Black Mirror.
Well, actually, one of the people at IMDb, they say that the combination of Black Mirror and 1984.
Oh yeah.
And they're basically saying that it might be better than both of those works of art. This is truly something special. I could not be more excited about.
Yeah.
Season 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know they were even talking about season 2 already, but
well, apparently it's already booked for another season.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that it's so like Adam Scott, like he initially goes through this process because he lost his wife, and he was having a hard time, and he was a professor of like history or something.
Yeah.
But he couldn't, like, his mourning, his grieving couldn't get him to a place where he could actually pay attention to his teaching, professoring.
Yeah.
So what he said, like, when he heard about this, he was like, hey, I can cut off that and still work. Like, it's not going to affect my work.
Huh.
And so, like, that was a part for him. But how easy it is for us to be able to then say, I mean, like, what a grand idea to, to be able to say, I can cut my emotions off that are, causing problems in the workplace.
Yeah.
And being able, what would it look like if we were all able to just focus on our work instead of, the blending between everything?
I think efficiencies would reach an all-time high.
Right.
Yeah. But then, one of the things along this line, because we're talking about managing the mind, is that there's a bill being introduced in Chicago for psychedelics to be legalized for use for depression, ADHD, and addiction, I think. And so...
I didn't hear about that.
I don't know. Well, these things that you hear on the road on NPR.
Yeah.
A snapshot in between.
Which would make sense that, I mean, but this is always like the other, the former governor of Illinois. He would never legalize marijuana because he's like, oh, it's just going to open up the door for everything. Like, okay. I'm like, but this would be specifically medical and not just like recreational use of psychedelics.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Right.
That's my understanding. I think that some of the other states that went down that road concerning psychedelics, and I think it also has to do with continued research on PTSD in regards to the reset of the chemistry of the mind and how the mind functions and works. And so, but I think it really is the yin to your yang in
Right.
regards to, hey, there's a chip that we can place for mind control, or what about the natural alternative, since we started out talking about chiropractors?
Right.
You see what I did there?
Bringing it full circle.
Oh man, yeah.
Bringing it back around.
But you know, and the funny part is how alien technology has influenced humanity across a broad spectrum. And I believe it was in episode 2 or maybe episode 3 of this season, season 5, where we talk about game changers. Game Changers Part 1 is where we're at. And we talk about technology and the game-changingness of technology, whether it's good or bad. And we see that there is this part where there's an active force pushing and moving in one direction. It affects a lot of other things. And so something that may seemingly be good can end up moving into this place that's not good.
Right.
And so... you know, again, now we're seeing this thriller, science fiction, things are being written about. People are like probably dropping acid and reading through old Star Trek magazines, you know, and
Right.
and you know, and like thinking through this, and there's a push in all the directions about what are the boundaries that you can work past, what are the workarounds, how can you go beyond? And these are things that we're like, oh wow. That had never happened. And yet 20 years from now, what's going to happen?
Right.
You know, the immortalized Elon Musk will have come up with, and I saw something that he's getting ready to release. Is it a robot or something like that?
I don't know.
Maybe that's not Elon.
I know he has a huge push to buy Twitter right now.
Apparently so, with a beta pill.
Yeah, I mean, but those do remind me of like, you know, the Black Mirror, you know, episodes. I mean, that series is all about like, where can this technology take us to that we're not thinking about currently?
Right.
You know, where does, you know, like the social media episode with, I mean, basically your likes and your, you know, your impressions and your influencing, like that's the currency of the day.
Right.
And, you know, is that where we are going to be driven to? Is like the currency is influence. The currency is this. I mean, and like if so, like I'm in trouble. But
yeah,
yeah. But I like the idea of being able to. I mean, because it's very philosophical. Because you're saying like we're not saying that this is the future. What we're saying is like this is a possible outcome of the things that we're messing with.
And how is it symbolic of what humanity's been boiled down to? Again, you talk about the philosophical questions around this, but you know what it talks to the frailty of human mind, human life, mental health, in regards to and what happens when people can't overcome something that's occurred within their life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if somebody says, "Hey, here's a pill,
Right.
hold it," you know, I mean, and then we're dialed back into the matrix, and we're a bunch of zeros and ones, you know, and stuff. And so, yeah, it really is captivating. and interesting to see the stretch.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, to me, I think even sci-fi is fringe. So I mean, so
Yeah.
we're not out of bounds here.
Oh no,
Even
no.
though we are talking about shows and talking about movie, but I think, as we say, art, reflects life. Life reflects art. I mean, there's a lot of that in the mix here as well.
Yeah.
So.
I heard something interesting, and this doesn't have anything to do with Fringe, but it kind of does, because if you want to go back 15 years ago, easily probably 10 years ago, but if somebody told you that somebody would come up with an idea that there would not be anything that would be physically being able to be held in your hand, but it could be used as currency, we'd all be like, no way. And then all the crypto, is out there and stuff like that. But I heard an article and where this person, I believe they purchased the first tweet on Twitter in an NFT.
NFT, yeah.
And they purchased it for $100 million.
What?
And then 6 months later, they put it up for sale, like in an auction.
Yeah.
And the highest bid was $385. But they anticipated that the guy was hoping to make like $300 million, from his investment of the first tweet on Twitter,
right?
To this whole thing. And what cracked me up was, like, somebody in the comments was saying, yeah, the only thing that NFTs and cryptos is for money laundering. Thank you, Ozarks. Just like all of fine art has been through all of the years,
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if people want to launder their money to me, I mean, I still got to roll down that thing on NFTs and stuff. But
right.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how that all unfolds. And it seems like we're in a crypto winter as far as investments and things like that. Things aren't like booming, but there's a lot of unsettledness going on in the financial markets and things. And
yeah, Heather keeps saying, I think we've missed the boat on the crypto. I'm like, no, I mean, like, I'm fine. Like, I haven't invested in any crypto.
Right.
And I think I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying that people are dumb. I mean, I know Adam has been on the show and he talked about crypto, and I'm, and investing in it, but like, there was probably a point for, I mean, he was looking at Bitcoin, which is a stronger one of the cryptos.
We are not financial advisors.
Right. But there is a bunch of people, from what I'm hearing in the stories, is like new crypto pops up and they're like, this could be the net. And then people are dumping money into something that then tanks. So it's almost like the stock market.
Well, and there's no question that, like, what this can be is volatile as trading penny stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get people moving in a direction, I currently have a stock that when I bought into it, it was like $3. And, I didn't have a lot of liquidity at the time to do like big purchases. And so I bought some of that. It went to 11.
Mm-hmm.
It's currently hanging out at $1.45. Now, I'm not really sure. I'm just grateful for the guy who sent me a message, who does advise me, and he said, hey, it's time to sell. I'm like, is it time to buy? Is it time to buy? You can't be making if you aren't buying, and some of my favorite messages from him are, it's like, it's time to sell. All right, take it out of the market, get it off the table, and stuff. And everybody's wondering, like, oh wow, hey, what are those stocks? No. I've talked to other friends about the names of said stocks, and like 6 months later, they come to me and like, this is doing nothing. I'm like, I'm in it for the long haul. I don't know what a long haul is. I mean, like, when you're talking about the frailty of life, is a long haul a week? Right. It might be a week. Is a long haul 5 years? How do you even know that you have 5 years?
Right.
I will say, if there is a subscription worth getting, Paramount Plus is up on that list. And no, I'm not giving anyone my password. But what I really enjoy is the Star Trek thread going through. Picard's got a great one going on right now in a multiverse time travel kind of thing too, and he gets to, talk with his, I don't know. It cracks me up how they're totally not following the Isaac Asimov laws of science fiction, though. I mean, like, you can't interact with your ancestors and not expect a different outcome, and so, like, in that, it should create a fracture and a schism. But
that would be like the Back to the Future ideas too.
Oh yeah,
like,
I mean, they followed the laws,
right?
Marty, don't do that.
Right. Yeah, when your mom wants to sleep with you.
Calvin. Yeah. And really, I had kind of promised that we wouldn't talk about time travel. But
hey, it happens.
I think the reason why our Fringe, we end up talking about, there is so much information. Do we really have the amount of words to talk about all that we've taken in since our last Fringe episode?
Probably not.
One of the things that was cool,
of Fringe things.
Yeah, and so, like, as we take it in, what we're doing is we're pointing you towards the source of information, whether it's like shows that we watched and things. Bigfoot is one of those things where people are like, hey, you didn't talk about Bigfoot. Well, we didn't talk about the Loch Ness Monster either. And you know what else we didn't talk about? The Chupacabra.
Right.
I mean, so, like, there's a whole list of things that we haven't talked about. But I found it interesting. Phil and I were talking pre-taping that he and Heather are watching Missing 411. And it's dealing
I'll
with...
say Heather is watching Missing 411. But go ahead.
So what? Then she's telling you about it?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not watching it?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think I caught the tail end when I was doing something and she was watching, those are the shows that she brings in.
What happens if you catch a Bigfoot by the tail end?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Sorry.
But in my social feeds this morning, as I was drinking my first cup of coffee, I stumbled across a Bigfoot sighting in Iowa. So shout out to all the people in Iowa. Just want to let you know that something very interesting has apparently happened in your neck of the woods. And based on the last research over the last 3 hours, 2 news people on sections of the internet that I don't know are reputable have said, no, this isn't it. This is, it's very easily disputable that basically these are pictures from southern Kentucky, which, I mean, again, on a non-alien thing, I can be a fan of down south. I've been watching a lot of moonshiners lately. Has nothing to do with aliens, although I do think Tickle is possessed.
Tickle.
That's his name.
That's his name.
His
Wow.
name is Tickle.
He's a moonshiner named Tickle.
And so anyway, Amy and I were talking about it last night. She's like, yeah, I just look at those shows as like, reality TV. And I'm like, oh no, I'm listening for recipes. I'm listening for combinations. These guys are super smellers. Like how they're able to pick out notes and just different things in taste and stuff like that. The historicness of that. I just find it fascinating. I'm also watching my second barbecue show.
Which one is that?
This one's on Netflix, and it's basically interviews with 4 or 5 Michelin star barbecuists.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't pick up on that until the 3rd episode. The first one is just so lovely. It's about this lady. She's 85 years old, and I mean, like, has some like the best barbecue from ... Then there's this other guy. He's a weirdo. I mean, like weirdo in a beautiful weirdo kind of way. I mean, like Phil, you're a weirdo. I'm a weirdo. I mean, like not isn't a creepy weirdo,
Right.
but just weird, you know. I mean, this guy he studies in I don't know, like if he's in France and like they're barbecuing salad and greens and like and stuff and like this guy normally aged beef.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about aged beef, can we get all on the same plane? Now, if you're not a carnivore, just walk away and go get you Seagram's ginger ale and come back 3 minutes from now. But I mean, aged beef is rotten beef.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beef that has been in a controlled environment and let to degrade. Typically, USDA aged beef, 90 days. This guy is taking his beef to 200 days aging. And at a certain point, they take the fats, melt the fats down, probably over a fire, and then paint it on so it encases so that the outside doesn't go further, but the inside can still have more time.
Wow.
And this
200 days. That's crazy.
Think about it. And he goes out and picks cattle out of a herd, takes the top 10%, and grass fed these cows. I mean, like this guy, when I'm talking about a weirdo, it took him in 126 days to find the right space where he was going to have his restaurant. I mean, he's pretty on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Or the fringe.
He's already on the fringe.
He's on the fringe. Oh. So anyway, but I enjoy it. Now, it's because I got a barbecue and like, but paying attention. You got to, paying attention to recipes and what people are saying. And one of these things I'm really intrigued by is like whole hog barbecue. But see, like then what they do.
Like on a spigot?
No.
Oh.
No, like on a open pit with these really big, thick, wired things, and they take the whole hog and split it down the middle and flatten it out, and it's cooked, and how they control heat. And like we would go and buy a bag of Kingsford Edge, which I'm using large lump charcoal right now, which I have found very good cook, great heat, the right kind of smoke, and because the Weber shuts down and suffocates the fire, I get to use it like multiple times. Like I'll be on my 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll be on my 4th barbecue tonight since I got the grill.
Yeah.
I haven't been through a whole bag of large lump yet. And typically I'd be running out.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, if anybody's getting hungry, I love my grandma's vinegar coleslaw along with that.
So vinegar-based coleslaw instead of mayonnaise-based coleslaw?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, mayonnaise, Miracle Whip, salad dressing. Yeah. Now, I like a creamy slaw.
Yeah.
But I like pickles too. And so when you get into the vinegar-based, and then you got some dill seed in there and celery seed and but love watching that. And so it's super interesting to see how people the one barbecue show that I was watching, I mean, it was a contest. They started out with 10 and then there was the winner, right? Yeah.
Is that one on Netflix too? Because I think I saw that one.
Yeah. But I just wonder what aliens figured out what they're going to eat,
or if they have to eat.
It's true.
How do they consume their nutrients? It might be different.
Well, and that's one of the things that aliens as a predator is that they consume us.
Right.
Just like Bigfoot has to. I was wondering that this morning. Is Bigfoot a carnivore or a herbivore?
Yeah. Or is it an omnivore?
What's omnivore?
Both.
Ah, that's what we are, huh?
We are.
Ah,
Yeah.
I'm oblivious to the omnivorous.
Yeah, so you could eat greens and you can eat meat. Yeah.
I can, but will I?
Yeah. So that's the difference. But yeah, so you were talking about the Bigfoot sighting in Iowa.
Yeah, and that it's
And
been
that you were
debunked
saying
already.
that already, yeah. So they took the picture, they put it into a reverse Google search, and found that there was the same photo that was used in Kentucky.
Yeah, down south. That's how we got to talking about moonshine and
Right.
tickle. It's Bigfoot.
Is Bigfoot?
It's a gateway.
It is.
Every topic's a gateway to a rabbit trail.
Yeah, because that's and this is where the intersection came this morning before we got on. Was I was mentioning that Heather was talking about this missing 411. So I said, let me look up this guy. So his name is David Paulides. Yeah. And he was a former police officer who now, who initially started this kind of like Bigfoot group, and they were trying to be able to find Bigfoot. And he initially, from what I even hear, is that he had put together, from this Bigfoot society, like he found some kind of DNA sequencing that was, what from his perspective or this group's perspective, that it was an unknown primate. Like no one had found this DNA before, and they were claiming it was Bigfoot DNA.
Yeah.
And so they put it out that way. Now, later came to be that then the Scientist magazine analyzed the paper, reported the analysis, and the data failed to support the claims of the existence of a human primate hybrid. And so they ultimately said, yeah, that's not true. And they called Bigfoot then a combination of folklore, hoax, and misidentification of animals. Particularly, they said, black bear. So part of the DNA, apparently, lots of people have been using black bear DNA, claiming that it was, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So it's, so some of the skeptic side of Bigfoot says we still believe that Bigfoot is a folklore, a hoax. Yeah. And all these people who are trying to be able to report on this are probably just trying to perpetuate a hoax.
Well, isn't there something within us that, I don't know why. Like I can feel within my body when I start thinking about, hey, what are the possibilities about something that, is out there but not easily, attained, or, and I don't know. It just like it rises up. I really enjoy that same feeling around science fiction. Mm-hmm. And then there's just the lostness of getting into suspended reality.
Right.
Like for instance, one of the shows, Moon Knight, came out on Disney Plus. Again, I'm irritated why they just didn't drop all of the episodes at the same time, and you get to be able to walk through it.
But it's weekly.
But they're letting it out weekly, and managing content, blah blah blah. But as a junior, senior in high school, Moon Knight was one of my favorite comic books. I think if I ask Micah, hey dude, in the comic book collection, do you still have Moon Knight? I don't know if he let that go or not. But I never got all of the history. They're doing a great
origins
of what Moon Knight, and basically Moon Knight is an avatar to the spirit pharaohs from Egypt.
Right.
Or the gods and goddesses and all that other stuff.
Right.
Yeah. which again, Stargate Origins
Uh-huh.
ends up going back, and so ATEP is in that line as well, and it's all this, I was explaining to Amy, I'm like, I don't know if you'll like this. It's like science fiction. We started watching it. The way it was shot, it was kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark meets Flying Through Time,
Yeah.
and so, but yeah, Moon Knight, and basically the human is the avatar, and it took me a while to catch up. I was like, now hold it, I don't remember this as being in part of the, like really what's going on and stuff like that, but I'm willing to suspend so there's like a difference of suspension of reality and being able to get lost. It's totally different than the feeling that my human body takes in when I'm listening to music, and where my mind and how my mind works, and a musical journey. Flip it around. Possibilities are endless. Maybe it's like this utopian hopefulness within me of, discovering aliens, and I can be dogmatic on how much I believe aliens are real, or I'm really more of a time travel guy.
Yeah.
Than like really being, I'm still calling out into this universal existence that if aliens are out there and can hear me, my request is an encounter.
Right.
I keep putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's accepting my invitation.
And I think that you would be a great ambassador to be able to, as you would speak in colors, as you would speak differently.
I mean, I think
So
that
come on.
there's a lot of options. I don't know that humanity is really in good hands with me as their ambassador, but I would gladly mediate.
Yeah.
It's in my skill strength.
Yeah, I mean the Moon Knight, I mean, deals with kind of dissociative. I think it's called dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah.
Which means you're disassociate, like you don't know that the others exist within you.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a conversation going along in that whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, and this goes back, I think, what's that? The one series, Unbreakable,
Yeah.
that was, I think, an M. Night Shyamalan movie. But then they also there's another break off of it called Split, and it is based on a dissociative identity. I mean, he had like a ton of different personalities within him. And none of them knew about each other necessarily. I think it later comes that, yes, they know about one, and one is particularly the kind of the head, and it kind of changed. But that idea that there can be multiple personality, I mean, like the Stephen Grant of Moon Knight, like is British or English or, and then it's like, and then you get Mark Spector, who is like American, and
Right.
It's like a Marine and a CIA or whatever.
Right.
And it's like they completely different characters.
Yeah.
Like one knows how to fight and, do stuff, in that realm. And the other one's like, I have no idea what's happening here. I mean, like just that idea that the two could coexist within a body.
Mm.
That it's like completely different skill sets.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Goes back to Jason Bourne.
Right.
Doesn't know where he's coming from.
Right.
And then it's this amnesic puzzle being put together and stuff. But yeah, the interaction with the unseen then moves into where the person that is it really and it's like the third like show that's dealing with the ancients of Egypt.
Right.
And that's what I was sharing with Amy, is that like really people have hypothesized alien intervention in regards to the Egyptians.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's just out there.
Yeah, Tyson was writing a paper for one of his school classes about a conspiracy theory involving dinosaurs and ancient Egypt, and the dinosaurs helped the Egyptians build the pyramids. And so he was digging into this conspiracy theory that apparently is out there. I mean, it floats around. People have bought into the idea that dinosaurs helped the Egyptians build pyramids, and I'm like, I like that one. That one's a little bit more of a stretch for me, because I mean, it's hard to be able to consider, a dinosaur working for, almost like enslaved by. Like, I mean, these people were apex predators.
Yeah. having trained dinosaurs.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
oh my,
I don't know. So there's lots of difficulty with some of that, but I mean, but you're also bringing in, ancient Egypt has a lot of, theories and things that come out of ancient Egypt. So,
well, Egypt tells Elon Musk, #1 story, August 2nd, 2020.
yeah.
Egypt tells Elon Musk its pyramids were not built by aliens. So, Egypt invited the billionaire to visit the country and see for himself that the famous pyramids were not built by aliens. The SpaceX boss had tweeted what appeared to be support for conspiracy theorists who say aliens were involved in the colossal construction effort. But Egypt's international cooperation minister does not want them taking any of the credit. She says seeing the tombs of the pyramid builders would be the proof. The tombs discovered in the 1990s are definitive evidence, experts say, that the magnificent structures were indeed built by ancient Egyptians. And so on Friday, the tech tycoon tweeted, aliens built the pyramids, OBV, which was retweeted more than 84,000 times.
Wow. I mean, that's where influencers come in, right? And like an influencer has a ton of followers, and then they throw out something like this. They're like, ooh, does that mean it's possible?
Egyptian archaeologist Zahi Hawass also responded in a short video in Arabic posted on social media saying Mr. Musk's argument was a complete hallucination, which I think Elon has partaken of the psychedelics.
Right. Oh, wow. So this Wikipedia article talks about how did ancient Egypt become so popular? And there's a whole like breakdown of the things that have been spoken about throughout history, why sometimes it's easy to go back to ancient Egypt and, kind of pull the things out. I mean, there's, ancient Egypt has multiple deities. And, so there's lots of those stories that you can pull from, once you've got a rich history of it. You're like, hey, let's go back to it. And, and if you create a story from, a piece of, way back history, like then it gets harder for people to verify. And then it can just be left in the ether. Like, hey, if you can't verify it, that means it could be true.
Yeah. And I think, in the past that with information so available at your fingertips, I mean, like how in like hundreds of thousands of seconds, all of a sudden you got 13 million articles on one thing, that's out there and stuff. And
yeah.
Yeah. Aliens.
And Bigfoot.
The pyramids.
The pyramids. Ancient Egypt.
It's so funny how that when humanity, evolved and came through, how, this gets into historic spirituality. But that, again, there's something within humanity that calls for a reckoning of something outside of itself that's bigger than itself. And I'm not sure how that fits in with atheism. And what's the other one?
Agnosticism.
Yeah, agnosticism. But, we don't necessarily have to go down that diatribe. Just putting it out there that, the investigative nature, the curiosity. I'm grateful for curiosity.
Me too.
Just to, to be, and I think that's the space and the permissions is, to be able to consider, is there, it's almost a mantra around here. You don't know what you don't know. And so like, the ability to be open to knowing something that we don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you open to know what you don't know?
I don't know. I'd like to know.
Right. You'd like to know what you don't know?
Well, and to close up the information dump of things that I've been taking in. All right. I have been following the Curse of Oak Island for years.
Right.
And it seems, and have shared with our listeners, that in regards to this, Fringe-esque, hey, they're looking for a treasure that was buried, some 230 some rumors of a treasure, and a lot of questionable, you would call it almost conspiracy ideas of this freed slave soldier with great wealth in Nova Scotia on an island, and how this all fits together. It took us down the road to the Knights Templar, interconnected with Freemasonry. And so then, but there has been a great discovery in the recent weeks in regards to the tie back to Portugal, and how Portugal was a safe haven, a place of respite for the Knights Templar. And the Knights Templar, for those who, I can boil it down simply, which, 6 months ago I couldn't have, is basically the armed militant structure of the Catholic Church. They were priests who were dedicated to the protecting of these riches that were sacred, and were paid lots of money to be able to do it.
Yeah, which then also somewhat became a banking system too.
Yeah, in regards to the Crusades and the pillaging of the Middle East and Africa.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but then Portugal gave respite and established the Knights of Christ. And so in that, but Portugal had one of the forefront sailing abilities. And so the idea of these Knights of Christ porting out of Portugal and heading over into Nova Scotia. And they basically, that shipping group was made to and contracted for map making of what was going on. And so some really interesting things. No gold coins and, anything like that, but it's a great lesson in history. And then you get into the Eastern world coming over to the West, and you have the Spaniards pillaging and pilfering through South America, and the Aztecs, and now there's a new series about the lost gold of the Aztecs. But I had no idea that the Aztecs actually had trading routes through North America, and that they came to North America and mined gold in North America. And so,
Didn't either.
but yeah, the Spaniards were on their way to pillage and plunder, and when they showed up, all the gold was gone. Basically, they packed up shop and they headed north.
Wow.
And it'd be really interesting, and I haven't done any of this research, about the DNA genetic ancestry of the First Nations
Right.
of the United States, well, of Northern America.
Mm-hmm.
And if that ancestry has genetic links into the Aztecs of South America.
I believe that it actually has, it has a mix of Spanish, Aztec. I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know if they would still identify it as Aztec, but there is some, from what I hear, influences there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been like, do you go hang out at the pub and ask questions?
Right. So who knows about genetic structure?
Yeah.
But I some of it's just, looking at the ancestry stuff and digging through. I mean, not that I have any of those influences. I mean,
so if you go to the Mormon library of what generations, do you think you could find that stuff out?
I think it's possible.
I don't think they let you read those books.
Well, yeah, especially because the Mormons were the ones who were saying like that there were, Jewish, DNA structures in the native, people.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, there's not.
Yeah.
That was definitely debunked.
Yeah. Hey, and so for just a couple final records, I just need to check in with you.
Yeah.
Now, have you met with any aliens recently?
No.
Okay. Interactions within the city? Have you seen any weird lightings or sightings?
No.
All right. Are you still currently in your present body?
I believe so. Mm-hmm.
Are there any distant
like
memories of abduction? Like time lost, memory like lapses, space and time that has been, you thought you should have lived it out, but you woke up to feeling like that there was great loss in a time span?
Not that I am currently aware of.
And as you have reviewed your body as a whole, there's no injection sites at the base of your neck or anything where there's been chips planted or anything like that?
Yeah, not that I am aware of at the current time.
All right, folks. Well, you heard it here. The Phil that we have is still the Phil that we had, and we're looking forward to having Phil be Phil going forward. And that's my flash of how time travels.
That's right. Yeah, so as always, what are some of the fringe items that you are digging into currently as well? I mean, you heard about some of both the sci-fi-ish things that we've come across, but also, what are you thinking about? What are the stuff that that you have? Is it aliens? Is it the chupacabra? Is it what's the Mothman or the
Shadow Man?
Right. There's all kinds of other ones that we haven't even touched on yet. But what are you digging into that we would find interesting that we could even share?
This is a physical manifestation of my fringe antenna. That's what I'm doing on the screen right now.
He's seeking it out in your mental pathways. Oh, man. There it is. There it is. He's now receiving.
All right. Well, happy birthday, Caitlin, and thanks for checking in and listening. And we know what we do know. And what we do know is that there's a lot we don't know.
That's true. And that's why they call it the unknown. Unknown. Thanks for spending your time of your known time with us today.
All right. Take care, everyone.